שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב.
Hands together.
יננאי, יננאי, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. יננאי, יננאי.
Here we go.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Spike.
Gosh, I heard myself. Maybe somebody else.
Shabbat Shalom. If you've never said Shabbat Shalom before, you can do it now. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Awesome. It's so wonderful to have you guys here with us and to have other people online with us. Let me make sure I'm not blowing everybody out here. There we go. Okay. And so, friends, it's good to be here. It is good to be here. I'm Rabbi Rachel, here with Rabbi Spike, and I think you guys are here to see somebody help us lead prayer, and that would be Hannah. And we are so excited that this day has come. So, Hannah, if you actually want to head on up there. So we will have fun in the service, but let's also remember that it is a prayer service. And so I invite you to take a moment, turn off your Apple Watches, silence your phones. If for some reason you need to answer a device, we'll ask that you step back inside. So masks are required inside, and outside our masks are optional. For those joining us online today, this lovely morning, a little bit about our setup. We have a bunch of Hannah's friends and family right in front of us. Hannah is to our left with our Torah. Rabbi Spike here standing to my right, and we are to the right of Hannah. All right, friends. Did I miss anything?
I think you're good.
Oh, if you need to leave this space, there's an exit right there, and also the stairs are behind you. All right, friends, little Hine Matov. Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Friends, at this time, it is my pleasure to invite forward your grandmother, Sylvia Rosenberg, for the presentation of the Talit, which you can find on page 5. Would you like to do it? Yeah, come on up, Shelly. Oh, I'm sorry, that was my bad. Let me explain why I said Sylvia Rosenberg's name, which is that her grandmother commissioned this talit for Hannah to be extra special for her on this day. And now her parents, Kelly and Chad, are going to present it to her this Shabbat morning. Just go every other.
Around your shoulders, may the voices of the generations speak to you. May you know that there is a people, a rich heritage to whom you belong, a sacred place from which you are connected to all who dwell on earth.
As you are embraced in the folds of this talit, so too are you wrapped in the loving embrace of your family, community, and this holy congregation. May this simplest of garments always be for you a symbol of God's abiding and sheltering presence.
As you recite the blessing and wrap yourself in this talit, we proudly watch and celebrate with you as you accept your place in the chain of our tradition.
All right, so now is that wonderful moment, Hannah, where you get to hold or your parents get to hold the talit in front of you. And I think I saw that we have Eitz Chaim on here, which is wonderful. And so, Hannah, if you will, you're going to go ahead and recite our talit blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav
Vitzivanu.
lehitatef batzitzi.
And we all say
Amen. And friends, for making it to this wonderful moment throughout all the year and everything that Hannah has worked towards, we mark this with a Shehechianu. And go ahead, Hannah, and put it on. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehachianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen. All right. You're welcome to stand up here, or you may be seated. And so, Hannah, you will lead us. We're on page 6 as she recites her bat mitzvah prayer.
Okay. God be with me on this occasion of my bat mitzvah. Help me make meaningful the covenant you now establish with me. Sustain with a sense of holiness, inspire in me a desire to be special. I do not ask that you make my life easy, resolve my problems, map out the directions of my life. I ask only that you strengthen with me the desire to mold and shape my life in accordance with your will. In this hour of my bat mitzvah, I invoke your blessings upon my parents and friends and all who have loved and cared for me and have brought me to this time of gladness. Give them joy and fulfillment in my growth and my achievement. You who turn the hearts of children to their parents and the hearts of parents to their children.
Amen. And so, friends, now we will turn to page 13, and you will see that there are some italics there. That is when you come in to pray with us, and the more energy that you guys give us during those responses, the more energy that Hannah is going to push back out to you, and that is the way that we sort of get the energy in here, the holiness in here to raise up our prayers. So the bottom of page 13.
May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for fellowship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit indifference, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Friends, we'll rise for the Baruch Hu. It is our call to worship, saying we've warmed up a little bit here. Hannah has gotten us ready. And now we continue our prayers. Page 15. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Baruch hu et Adonai ha-mevorach.
Here we go.
Baruch Adonai ha-mevorach. Kids, go ahead and be seated, and I'll rise you again in a little bit here. But it's hot, so go ahead and sit down. So, Hannah, this prayer that you are about to lead us in, this is a prayer about creation. A prayer that says, thank you, God, for creating this space so that I can be here and make this world a better place. And Hannah, you're a creative. You become a co-creator with God. In everything that you do, you are clearly so loved by so many people who are here. You've got this great group of friends and family. And you'll keep creating. You create those communities for yourself so that you create little worlds. And each of those worlds, you make a better place. Yotzer or page 15.
Baruch
Atah Adonai,
Eloheinu
Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvarei choshech, Oseh shalom uvarei et hakol, Hameir la'aretz, v'ladarim alecha brachamim, Utuvo mechadesh bechol yom, Tamid ma'aseh v'reishit, Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, Kulam bechokma asita, Mal'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha, Tit barach Adonai Eloheinu, Al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, Ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha selah, Or chadash al Zion ta'ir, V'nizkeh hulanu mehera ve'oro, Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer ha'me'orot. Friends, on page 16, we have our next prayer, Ahava Rabbah. And Hannah, it talks to us to, this is hard to do, to make our hearts one, to love God and to be in awe of God. And so, to make our hearts one, what does that mean? It's about figuring out who you really are. And becoming bat mitzvah at ages 12 and 13, it's a cruel but also wonderful thing that we do to teenagers in the Jewish people, to say that we believe in you, that we send our love to you, and we know that you are working on making choices in your life to become your best self. And so with that, Hannah, will you lead us? Let's go ahead and let's do the English here at the bottom of page 16. Enlighten us with your Torah. Cause our hearts to cling to your mitzvot. Together, make our hearts one to love your name and be in awe of it. Keep us from shame and humiliation and from stumbling today and always. For we have trusted in your holy, great, and awesome name. May we be glad, rejoicing in your saving power, and may you reunite our people from all corners of the earth, leading us proudly independent to our land. For you are the redeeming God, and have brought us
near to your great name,
to offer thanks to you, and lovingly declare your unity. Blessed are you, abundant one, who lovingly cares for your people, Israel. Friends, I'll invite you to rise as we turn to page 18. Hannah, this is a lot of oneness going on here. This is the part where we declare God's oneness in the world, whether that oneness feels like an ethereal mist in the sky or the oneness of that holy spark within us. That's what we declare with words of Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuta Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. Hannah, I'm going to call this prayer our prayer. This is that prayer, just continuing on here at page 18, that when we had the chance to study together, we talked about this prayer a lot. And then we talked about it again at services that Friday night. And now we're going to talk about it again. And that's because it is one of the prayers that gives us so many actions, so many ways that we can connect. And so I want you to know that that prayer is always here for you, that you center yourself with that Shema, and then you have these words of Ve'ahavta, which they're teaching us things. They're teaching us to put up reminders. Those reminders are our mezuzot, our little scrolls that have these words in them. And it's the reminder, this one's a little, we don't do it as much here, but to put it on our arms and on our foreheads so that we feel a deep connection to those words. And we're supposed to teach it to our children, to teach Judaism to the next generation. And all of that is bundled up in this one prayer. Ve'ahavta, page 18.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha
Kol
ובכל
nafshecha
ובכל
uvechol
מאודיך
vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha ulechtecha v'derech ushokbecha uvkumecha ushartam meot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
On page 19, I'd like to invite forward to our microphone Linda Johnson, Hannah's grandmother, to lead us in this responsive reading that will carry us into our prayer for freedom of Micha Mocha. So please, let us pray responsively.
Adonai, our God, you took us out of slavery in Egypt. You made us free.
You were in the courage with which we overcame 40 years of desert wandering.
Even today, you're in the hope that, like a beam of light, brightens the darkness of suffering and despair.
You are in the love that creates, protects, forgives.
Standing at the sea, we felt your goodness and your love, and we sang a new song to you. And still, today, we sing that song.
We praise you, Adonai, Redeemer of Israel. Thank you.
Page 20.
Yai lai 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 la 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 yai lai 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 la 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 yai lai 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 la 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 yai lai 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 ya lai la 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 Micha Mocha. Here we go. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai Micha Mocha ne'etar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osei feleh Nora tehilot osei feleh. Lai lai? Can we do the lies? Yai lai 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 la 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 yai lai 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 la 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 yai lai 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 la 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 lai. Tzur Yisrael kuma be'ezrat Yisrael uvdechenu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael go aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo Kedos Yisrael, Baruch Ata Adonai,
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
Ga'al Yisrael. Whew. Friends, we have now been working towards this ark, Hannah. We've been praying and praying and praying so that we could reach this prayer of the Amidah. And that's because it is our central standing prayer. That's why it's called Amidah, means stand. And when we stand for this prayer, it's about connecting to everything that came before us so that we can be there for the future. And that's why we're about to say all of our patriarchs and all of our matriarchs, all of those men and women who came before us so that you could be here, I could be here, Rabbi Spike could be here, everybody could be here on this day. And so while holding that in our hearts, we'll rise for our Amidah, page 21. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Mishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'ogevurot, Umido Melech, Melech Memid, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Avery, Reed, and Andon Reed, if you guys will come on forward to lead us on page 23.
We remain standing.
Many of the ways of holiness varied are its paths.
There is holiness when we strive to be true to the best we know.
There is holiness when we are kind to others.
There is holiness when we strive for harmony in all of our relationships.
There is holiness when people of different backgrounds work together for a common future.
There is holiness when people seek justice and struggle for righteousness.
There is holiness when people create lasting poetry or a song or philosophy.
There's holiness when we forget what divides us and remember what unites us.
Holy, holy, holy is Adonai our God.
Thank you. Friends, we are on page 24 into page 25, Kedusha. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך על הארץ, כבודו. הדירנו, אדוני, אדוננו, מדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. There we go. חד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו ומלכנו, ומושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. Hallelujah. לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גלך.
You repeat. לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גלך.
ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. Here comes your part. לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גלך.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור נגיד גלך. כי המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה. כי המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו.
האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Friends, a word as we continue on with our service. The claps that you do or you don't do, that's energy that needs to come this way. Claps, snaps, taps, the responsive readings, if we don't do them, it falls flat. If we do them, she gets the energy. Hannah gets the energy and puts it right back to us, and then we have the feeling that we want at Hannah's bat mitzvah. So I will implore you as we go through this, please participate. It's a highly participatory service in any way that you want. Claps, snaps, taps, la-la-las. God understands la-la-las just fine, but we really want you to participate.
All right, friends, here's your chance. We pray responsively, page 25. One back. There you go. Perfect. From of old.
From of old, the Jewish people have seen Shabbat as a unique gift, a token of its covenant with God.
Together, Shabbat is the most cherished creation of the Jewish spirit. It mirrors the essence of the Jewish soul.
Shabbat has never been merely a day of rest from labor. It has always been a break in the routine of everyday life.
Together, Shabbat is a symbol of liberation and triumph, of the holy over the profane, of spirit over matter.
In every age, Shabbat afforded the Jew a sacred retreat, a haven of safety, a fountain of new strength and perpetual renewal.
Shabbat nurtures family life in love and harmony. A home at peace welcomes Shabbat with joy.
Shabbat is part of nature's design. The very purpose of creation, all that was created, attained its fulfillment in Shabbat.
Shabbat is our hope, the calm haven where all the weary find rest. With the coming of Shabbat, redemption and peace enter the world.
All right, friends, and if you are joining us online, and this is part of your bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah prep, let us know what makes you joyful in life today.
Page 26,
Thank you.
Yismechu.
ישמחו ומלכותך
Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Onei Shabbat.
ישמחו ומלכותך
Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Onei Shabbat.
מקדשי, מקדשי שבי שבת, כולם יסבהו ויתענגו מטובך שבת.
ישמחו ומלכותך Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Onei Shabbat.
ובשביעי רצית בו והקדשת שבת, חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת.
Yismechu v'malchutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat.
Zecher Lema'aseh v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher Lema'aseh v'reishit Shabbat.
Yismechu v'malchutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat,
V'korei
Oneg Shabbat.
Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat. Friends, on page 27, we will pray responsively as Stacy Reed and Eric Nation lead us in our prayer.
Our world is full of wonders and miracles, but all it takes is one little hand placed before our eyes and we see nothing.
But miracles are all around us and within us. We are each walking miracles.
When we are bruised, what miracle heals us? When we see beauty, what miracle elevates us? When we hear music, what miracle moves us?
When we see suffering, what miracle saddens us? When we give and receive love, what miracle warms us? When we pray, what miracle renews us?
Every springtime is a miracle. Every snowflake is a miracle. The thoughts we think, the words we speak, the hopes we cherish, each is a miracle.
For all these miracles, may your name be exalted and blessed forever and ever.
Hannah, if you would, please lead us responsively on page 28.
Our God, we know there is no greater gift than peace. Help us to find the peace that comes from the love of your Torah.
Inspire us to banish hatred, war, bloodshed, and bigotry. Help us to establish forever one human family, doing your will in love and peace.
Help us to find peace in ourselves and among the people. O God of peace, bless us with peace.
You have given us the power, O God, to bring peace and justice into the world. May we always love peace and pursue it, and love our fellow creatures. Fill us with kindness, wisdom, and love. Then shall we learn to live in peace. Blessed is God, teacher of peace.
Sim Shalom, page 28, our prayer for peace. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, v'rachamim. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Friends, we will take a few moments for silent prayer and meditation, and then we will come back together in song on page 30. Oh, say shalom bimrama, say shalom aleinu, ve'yal kol Yisrael, ve'imru Vimru, Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. All right, friends, at this time, if Chad and Shelley, if you will come up for our parent blessing, which can be found on page 31.
May you live to see your world fulfilled. May your destiny be for worlds still to come. And may you trust in generations past and yet to be.
May your heart be filled with intuition and your words be filled with insight. May songs of praise ever be upon your tongue and your vision be on a straight path before you.
May your eyes shine with the light of holy words and your face reflect the brightness of the heavens. May your lips ever speak wisdom and your fulfillment be in righteousness.
A Jewish home opens its heart and its link to the generations is proclaimed. Today our child, nearly grown, is called to read from the Torah and is welcomed into the congregation.
May this moment be blessed.
Hug, hug,
Amen.
kiss, kiss. All right, friends, we're going to rise for our Torah service. A little choreography here. Up to the ark to open the ark, we're going to have Molly Levy, Lily Dritz, Talia Drainick, Paloma Diaz-Williamson, Rachel Blumenthal, and Izzy Murphy. Go on up. Over here by me, I'm going to ask Lori and Alan Cohen and Abby Cohen to come on over here. You're going to be undressing the Torah. And I'd like to have the grandparents, Linda Johnson, Sylvia Rosenberg, and Jim Johnson, stand right over here. So come on over. Okay, you're going to kind of stand right this way. 1, 2, I don't care about the order. We're missing one. All right, good enough. Okay, ladies. Coming. Okay, good. Come on over. You're going to stand in line right here. Beautiful. Okay, ladies, on either side of the ark, split into two. Okay, so half of you take one side, half of you take the other side. Page, go ahead and open the ark. Page 32.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael, v'kdushato.
Okay, so you got a good, where's Hannah? Hannah, hi. Just a line of sight, that's fine.
Okay.
You got a good crew up here. You got mom and dad on either side. You got friends all around you, community all around you, and not just here, but online as well. There are a lot of people here, okay, present and virtual, all here because they love you and they support you. So I want your eyes to sort of scan the room, and everybody give her a wave as her eyes meet yours. I want you to really feel the love here, okay? Now, Hannah, not only are the folks who are here supporting you, but we Jews believe that the Jewish generations who are no longer here are also here in spirit, meaning those who have passed away. And if you think about how many generations it took, hundreds of them, to get you here and the Torah here, if anybody had made a different decision, you wouldn't be here and the Torah wouldn't be here. So I want you to look over to your grandparents here. Go ahead, give her a little wave. And behind grandma's, you're going to see missing grandfather. Okay? And behind grandma, you're also going to see great-grandparents and great-great-great-grandparents and great-great-greats circling this outside sanctuary, and we believe that they're here and they're smiling because of what you're doing. That is leading us in prayer, deciding to make the decision to embrace your Judaism as an adult, and elevating all of us to be the best that we can be in ourselves and to do our part bringing the world from where it is to where it needs to be. So now we will symbolically pass the Torah down through the generations. You just give it a touch, a hug, a kiss, a nod, whatever you'd like to do. Okay?
And as the Torah is passed, we remember Robert Rosenberg, and we think of, who are unable to be here today, Bonnie Johnson.
Okay, so I'm passing Torah to your mom. Okay, now Kelly, I want you to turn and face Hannah. Now, Kelly, you were going to pass the Torah to your daughter, and in doing so, she assumes all the wonderful opportunities and responsibilities of being a Jewish adult. Hand low. Beautiful. Okay, turn and face your fans. Keeping a hand right on her shoulder. Chad, you too. Okay? All right.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema.
Turn to face the ark.
Gadlu Adonai iti, uneromema Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai Hagivura v'Hagivura v'Hatiferet v'Hanetzach v'Hahod Ki Kol Hashamayim Uvaret Kol Hashamayim Uvaret Lecha Adonai Hamalacha Yamin Aseh Lechol Rosh Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Vehishtachavu Lehakodsho Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Vehishtachavu Lehakodsho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu.
Please be seated. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. So as Hannah gets ready to chant from the Torah, a word first about preparation. For those of you who've been to, 1, 10, 100, 1,000 bar bat mitzvahs, don't forget that what she is about to do is super hard. It takes a ton of work and time and dedication to chant from the Torah, the Bible, in the original, without any musical notes or vowels. Takes tremendous dedication, tremendous work. And in doing so, Hannah lends her voice and her expertise with her Devar Torah to this tradition. What's the tradition? That we empower our youth at age 13 to lead us. I don't know another people that does this. We empower them to lead us, not just in terms of the words that they offer, but a spiritual guide for the sake of the service. The hope, Hannah, let me just get your eyes for a second. The hope is that this experience acts as a spiritual cornerstone for you, that you can push off of to wherever you're going and always find your way back. In other words, this is a signpost along the way of you becoming a Jewish adult and the beginning of the rest of your Jewish adult life. So this is wonderful that you're doing this with us. Parsha Vayelech is on page 1547 for those who want to follow along. If you don't have the blue book with you, it's right out back and we can get you a copy. This is Deuteronomy 31, 1 through 13.
And our blessing before can be found on page 34. So it is my honor to call forward for the first Aliyah, Noah Rosenberg and Benjamin Rosenberg. Ya'amdu Noach ben Chaim v'machala, Benjamin ben Chaim v'machala, la'aliyah. Guys, why don't you go ahead and start on that side? Perfect. Keep going. And then use the handheld mic. Yep.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayelech Moshe vaydaber et hadvarim ha'elech el kol Yisrael. Vayomer alehem ben me'ah ve'esrim shana anahi hayom la'uchal od latzei melavo v'Adonai amar elai l'ta'avor et hayarden hazeh Adonai Elohecha hu over lefanecha hu yashmid et hagoyim ha'ela milfanecha v'rishtam Yehoshua hu over lefanecha ka'asher diber Adonai.
Beautiful, beautiful. And guys, our blessing after.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam atah b'toheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
All right, guys. Because of space, I'm going to go ahead and have the two of you please be seated. And it is my honor for our second Aliyah to call up friends Marissa Ragianti. Is that even close? There we go. Okay, cool. And Romy Kurgan. Yat Ta'amdu, Malka bin Avriela, Miriam Varik, Virana bat Peretz Vitzipora la Aliyah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Ve'asa Adonai lahem ka'asher asa lesichon ulog malchei ha'emori ulartzam asher hishmid otam untanam Adonai lifnehem ve'asitem lahem kechol hamitzvah asher tziviti ethem hizku ve'imtu al tiru ve'al ta'artu mivnehem ki Adonai Elohecha hu ha'holech imach lo yarpecha ve'lo ya'azvecha.
Beautiful.
All right, friends, if you'll do our blessing for after.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Thank you, ladies. Go ahead and blow kisses and have a seat. There you go. And now for our third Aliyah, they don't have to go very far, is proud mom and proud dad, Kelly Rosenberg and Chad Rosenberg. Oh.
Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Vayikra Moshe liHoshua Vayomer Elav Le'enei Kol Yisrael Hazak ve'ematz Ki ata tavo et ha'am hazeh el ha'aretz Asher nishba Adonai la'avotam latei lahem va'etena tanhilena otam V'Adonai hu ha'holech lefanecha hu yihye imach lo yarpech peha velo yazveka velo tira velo techat Vayikhtov Moshe et haTorah hazot vayitna el hakohanim b'nei Levi hanoseim et Aaron barit Adonai ve'el kol ziknei
Yisrael. Beautiful.
Way to go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tofenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. All right, give her a little squeeze. Beautiful.
All right, so Hannah, can you make sure that your yod is pointed on the first word of your next aliyah? Perfect. And then I'll invite you to have a seat. And so the reason that we have Hannah sit down is because before this day, she could not formally be called up to the Torah. It is on this day that she becomes an adult in our Jewish community so that she can do what her friends did at other bar and bat mitzvahs in the future, so that she can be counted in a minyan and 10 people that we need to do some of our prayers, and that so she continue to grow in your spirituality, in your Judaism, and in all you do for your Jewish future. So with that, Ta'amad Chana Adina bat Chaim v'Machala la'aliyah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Vayitzav is your first word.
Kinda lost my spot.
That's okay. Yisrael was your last word. That's an easier one. Nope, you're right here.
Oh, okay. Vaitzav Moshe Otam Lemor Miketz Sheva Shanim Bemoed Shanat Hashmita Behag HaSukkot Becho Ko Yisrael Lera'ot et Penei Adonai Elohecha Bemakom Asher Yivhar Tigra Et HaTorah Hazot Neged Hol Yisrael Be'oznehem Hakehel Et Ha'am Ha'anashim V'hanashim V'hataf V'gira Asher Bisharecha Le'ma'an Yishme'u U'me'an Yilmedu Vayar'u Et Adonai Elohehem V'shamru La'asot Et Kol Divrei HaTorah Hazot Uvnehem Asher Lo Yadu Yishme'u V'lamedu Lo Yirah Et Adonai Elohehem Kol Hayamim Asher Atem Chayim El Ha'adama Asher Atem Ovrim Et Hayardain Shema Lerishta.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And our blessing for after.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata betohenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Hug, hug, kiss, kiss. You do a lot of that here? All right, so I'm going to have you watch that microphone. We'll need to move that, but just go ahead and roll the Torah closed. Nothing more than that. Oh, it sounds like it's back. Okay. Get it nice and set there. Perfect. And then mom and dad on either side.
Let's have everybody
And then
stand up, please. Please rise.
Yep, go ahead and please turn a little bit this way. Hannah, so you can look at me. So it's at this point in our service on page 35 that we offer this Misha Berach for you. It's for your spiritual growth, that you have now led us as a community in a Shabbat service. You have led us in Torah, and in a moment you're going to lead us with words of Torah as well. And so to bless you to continue on that journey, we have this prayer. Misha Berach, Avotinu v'imotinu, Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, Hu yivarech et, Chana, Adina, Bat Chaim v'Machala, Shehigia lemitzvot ve'ala ta la-Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yishmerecha v'chayeha, v'chonen et libah, L'hyot shalem im Adonai Elohecha, lahagot b'torato, ללכת בדרכיו ולשמור מצוותיו. ותמצאכם בשכל טוב בעיני אלוהים ואדם ונאמר Amen. Which means, Hannah, may God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless you. Because you have come for an aliyah upon the age of mitzvot. And so we ask that the Holy One guard you and sustain you, helping you to be wholehearted in your faith, studying God's Torah, walking in God's ways, and through that, fulfilling God's mitzvot. May you find favor before God and all people, and let us say, Amen. All right. You may be seated. If we could just put the cover on top. Chad, or Kelly, if you want to grab it from right there. All right, and then safely set it a little bit to the side so that Hannah can get her Devar Torah out. And it sounds like that's back on.
Okay, parents can have a seat.
Yep, you can have a seat.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and thanks for coming.
Shabbat
Shalom.
This week's Torah portion is Vayelech from the book of Deuteronomy. In the beginning of the Torah portion, it talks about how Moses is 120 years old and is at the end of his life. Moses talks about how he cannot lead his people into the promised land. He is handing the leadership of the people to Joshua. But before he does that, Moses explains to Joshua that people will turn away from God and rebel against him, and God will become very angry and will turn away from the people. Moses explains that it's easy to come back to God just by being righteous and asking for forgiveness. But it's important that the people understand that when bad things happen to them, it's not a sign that God is ignoring them. Those are consequences of the people's actions. It shows how when we do something wrong, we need to take responsibility for ourselves and accept the consequences of our actions. Later in the Parsha, Moses commands the people to gather around at the end of every 7 years to hear the reading of the Torah. Moses goes on and commands the people to teach their children a specific song. Place it in their mouths in the order that this song will be for me as a witness for the children of Israel. In the simplest of terms, Moses is commanding the people to share their history and stories so that one generation does not forget and they can pass the teachings and the lessons they have learned from God to future generations. This is important so the people never forget. This Shabbat is the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's called Shabbat Shuvah, which means the Shabbat of return. The reading from the prophets begins with the words, "Return, O Israel, unto the Lord your God." This period of time is known as the 10 days of repentance. This is the time that we need to think about the last year and the mistakes we've made, and how to make our wrongs right and return to God. It's also time for us to figure out how to move forward into this next year and be able to learn from our mistakes. We're commanded to take responsibility for our actions and learn from them so that we don't forget the lessons and teachings that we've been taught throughout our lives. This emphasizes on remembering is a very important Jewish value. Moses used it to teach the people of Israel their history, teachings, and lessons, so they learned and would not forget and could teach future generations. Today, as you know, is the 20th anniversary of the terror attacks that forced the Twin Towers in New York to collapse and killed almost 3,000 people. A couple weeks ago, we went to the 9/11 Museum in New York. It definitely changed my perspective about September 11th. We watched videos of the planes crashing into the Twin Towers. I was in shock watching those planes crash into the buildings. I couldn't believe that what I was watching actually happened. We saw multiple lists of everyone who died that day, whether it was people who worked in the towers or police or firefighters who ran into the buildings to help save people. We listened to the passengers from American Airlines flight that crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. We heard some of the last calls people made before they tried to take over the plane, away from the terrorists. Unfortunately, we know that they weren't successful. Being able to see and hear from people who actually experienced the horrors of September 11th made the day more real to me. I was able to picture people running down the stairs of the buildings, trying to escape while firefighters and police were running up the stairs, trying to help guide people to the safest way out of the buildings. All of the videos and audio clips brought me closer to that day and what so many people went through. None of us will ever fully be able to understand the fear, sadness, anger, and grief that so many thousands of people experienced that day and every day since. Remembering all those who died that day and the lessons we've learned from such a tragedy will help us never forget. As a Jewish community, we are taught throughout our lives to never forget, whether it's from this week's Parsha or the tragedy of 9/11, or even the Holocaust. The Jewish value of remembrance sits high on the list for us to observe that so we don't forget. Remembering all the people who died on 9/11 can inspire us to do more to help make the world a better place. We can take the sadness from that day and commit to doing something that gives others happiness. While most of us will never actually stop a terrorist attack from happening, we can do small, nice things that can make the day better for other people. My small contribution is my bat mitzvah project. For my bat mitzvah project, I'm going to get together with as many friends as I can and make sandwiches for homeless people. I came up with this idea when we were in San Francisco this summer. We were in Chinatown and I saw a man experiencing homelessness who I wanted to try to help. We were in a hurry to get to the airport so we wouldn't miss our flight. I wanted to give this man some money to help him buy food, but we didn't have time and I felt bad. I've thought about that a lot since I got back home. It's really motivated me to try to help people experiencing homelessness in Atlanta. And now that I am a bat mitzvah, I'm considered a Jewish adult. It's important to me to find my own way to practice Judaism. One goal I have for myself going forward is to have a stronger connection to Israel. I've learned so much about Israel and its history by spending 6 years learning at the Davis Academy. But I don't really have a connection to it now because I've never been there. I want to experience what it's like at the wall on Shabbat. Floating in the Dead Sea would also be great. I also hope to go to Israel because I've heard the food is great and I really like falafel. Finally, I want to thank my family, friends, and the rabbis, and lastly, my Torah tutor. They've all helped me get ready for my bat mitzvah. And to my family and all the teachers I've had throughout the years, I thank each of you for helping me get to this place in my life where I'm ready to become a bat mitzvah and accept the responsibility as a Jewish adult to help others to never forget the lessons in Judaism or from 9/11. Thank you for coming and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Beautiful words of Torah. And so now, Rabbi Spike, you'll help us to close out our Torah service because we are going to be doing Hagbah and Galila, which can be found on page 36. And so I'd like to invite forward Samantha and Paul Curran as you are going to help dress the Torah. And as they come up, if everybody else will please rise.
All right. I'll lift and you dress, or you want to lift and I dress? All right. All right.
V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe yai lai lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 Wonderful. So we're going to remain standing. And Avriella and Rick Ragnanti, if you guys would come forward to open our
We're
ark.
gonna put it back.
And we are going to be on page 39, friends. Go ahead and open. Eitz Chaim hi lamachzikim ba v'tomcheha meushar derachecha darchei noam v'chol netzivotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu, Kekedem.
Let me close the ark. Thank you.
Please be seated. All right, Hannah. Rabbi Spike, where do you want to stand?
I'll stand right back here. I have a.
You have a little shade spot?
I do.
Oh,
Come right
oh
back
come
here.
join you.
Yeah. We didn't think we were going to be getting a tan this morning. So Hannah, it's something that Rabbi Rachel and I have said many times before, but one of the most profound and wonderful things that we get to do as rabbis here at Temple Emanu-El is what we're doing with you today. And that is being with you and with our youth as you lead us and gain a certain confidence in yourself and are recognized by the community as not just a Jewish adult Dayenu, but as a potential mover and doer of great good in our community and the world. There's an exercise that they do at the seminary, Hannah, where after a couple months of working with a particular rabbi professor, we're asked to write down the 3 or 4 moments in our life that have shaped us to be who we are. And usually there's a spiritual component to it. It's actually a pretty tough exercise to do, but one that's worthwhile. What is it that has happened to you in your life that you can pinpoint and write down that makes you who you are, that's directed you in the direction that you've gone in? And half of the exercise is having enough introspective wherewithal to be able to identify particular moments that have affected you. What you wrote in your Devar Torah, I think at least one of those moments was recognized and talked about. You could have talked about anything, or almost anything. And following the experience that you and your mother had in New York with the September 11th memorials and the videos, which is pretty hard stuff to do, right? It's hard here and it's hard here. You talked about this moment in Chinatown. And it wasn't the moment where you gave the man who was homeless money. It's the moment where you almost did, but then couldn't. And I think that's profound. So here we have a theology that develops. Okay, theology, theo, God, ology, study of God. So this theology that develops is part of the Jewish experience. On one hand, when we pray, there's an idea that we're somehow connecting to God, the divine, ultimate reality, whatever it is that you want to call. And that somehow our prayer, especially if we have the right attitude and the right stance and the right striving, will somehow affect an outcome when God hears. That's one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is that when we pray, that you can almost take God out of the equation. What we're end up doing is realizing and articulating our priorities as individuals and as a people as a reminder to ourselves that there's things that we can be doing to bring about the change that we want to see. See, two sides of the spectrum. Except for it's not really a spectrum, maybe it's a circle. In other words, there is an idea in Judaism that God manifests God's self in this world through us and through our actions, what we do and what we don't do. So here you've got this homeless person, this person who was homeless. I saw your choice of words, this person who was homeless, who was probably praying for someone to help him. And here, we don't know what happened after you left, but here we saw that you saw this person in need, and it touched you in some profound way that you not only decided to have your mitzvah project revolve around this, but you talk about it in a public way in your Devar Torah at your bat mitzvah, and chances are that moment is going to affect who you are in your life. Now, we hope that somebody came afterwards and helped that individual, but for all of those people who are in that particular place where they're asking for help, praying for help, it's people like you who are going to be the manifestation of their prayer, the answer to their prayer. Who's to say that you making those sandwiches and handing them out isn't the answer to somebody's prayer who's hungry that day? And you telling all of us that this is really important to you and you're going to lead us in this effort doesn't affect us and our families and our friends. Think of the pebble hitting the still pond with the ripples, the expanding ripples out. So my charge for you today and my prayer for you today, Hannah, is that you keep on being aware of these things that affect you, these moments that speak to you, not just here, not just with your ears, but in your heart, in your kishkas, in your soul, and that you have the courage to take these moments that are calling to you, a calling. We have religious terms called a calling, that are calling to you, and you take them to the next step and the next step and the next step. And if in this moment, right here, right now, you make the decision in your mind that something about that moment and your reaction to it is going to be part of how you walk, through the world, then that is well worth the price of admission of being here this morning for all of us. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for sharing that piece of you. And my hope is that you take that to the next level, onward and onward.
Hey, Hannah. So, in 6th grade, we had the pleasure of meeting online every week. And was it you were in the same square as Abby? Is that usually who you were with? Uh-huh. So for a really long time, you were just this square with a friend who sometimes told me something about Israel or the Holocaust and what you thought. And then I finally had the chance to have you at least in one square, and just you, and not 17 other squares. And in that moment, Hannah, I understood like a different strength about you, that this process for you was not like, wasn't a straight line. There was some zigging and zagging to get here and to be here this day. And just continue with that strength, continue with that resiliency, and it's going to get you really, really far. And so with that, Rabbi Spike and I have the honor of blessing you once more with one of our holiest prayers, our holiest blessings, the priestly benediction. And we'll ask that everyone please rise. And Hannah, if you'll look at us. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's countenance shine upon you, Hannah, and be gracious to you.
Yis Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom.
May God's face turn toward you, Hannah, and grant you the greatest gift of all, your feet on the ground, your family and community all around you in love and support, realizations in your heart of what you can do, a sense of wholeness, a sense of completeness, and a sense of peace. And we say,
Amen. Please be seated unless you are Kelly and Chad to share some lovely words with Hannah.
Baby girl, Hannah Bean, my sweet angel, you are and will forever be my sunshine. That sweet smile and loving heart is how you came into this world. I remember when you were a baby, I used to go into your room to check on you after a nap, and you'd just be laying there in your crib with a smile on your face. You'd be looking at your hands or playing with your feet, just happy as a clam. That's the way you've always been, and I hope that's the way you'll always be. Your heart is pure, and it's full of love. One of the qualities I admire most about you is your inclusion of others and the way you stick up for yourself and your friends. You're a team player, and you don't get involved in gossip. Best of all, you're you, and you embrace who you are. I hope the hard times of life never extinguish that ray of sunshine that you radiate. As your mom, of course, I want nothing but the best for you, but I also know that life isn't always easy. In fact, it can be downright difficult, unfair, and just plain overwhelming at times. My wish for you in those very difficult times is that you dig deep, remember who you are and where you came from. Other than being the manners police and insisting that you say yes instead of yeah, I want you to always remember what I have instilled in you, that you are loved unconditionally, that you always have a foundation and family to count on, and as your mom, I will always be here to help, support, and love you. But most importantly, I want you to feel confident in yourself, in your intuition, and decisions. Those qualities will serve you well as you go through life. As a bat mitzvah and a young lady, you now get to decide who you are as a person and who you'll become. You get to decide your path in life and where that journey will take you. You get to choose how you use your Jewish education and values and incorporate those into your life. Continue to be brave, adventurous, and make decisions that are right for you and no one else. Whether you're deciding to go on a roller coaster that kind of scares you, but we all know that most of them don't, or whether you're deciding which college to go to, make the choice that works for you. One of the most important lessons my dad taught me is to always, and I mean always, take the high road. It's not always easy to make that choice, but at the end of the day, taking the high road will allow you to be proud of the decisions you make and help you be the best version of you that you can be. This will allow you to grow into a confident and strong woman, one who makes a point to stay on the right path for herself. Life is like baseball, basketball, tennis, and just like I used to ask your brothers before every one of their baseball or basketball games, what are the three most important things? Do you remember? Yes. Have fun, do your best, and always have good sportsmanship. And the number 4 for you is to be Hannah. Your neshama, your Jewish soul, is where your sunshine comes from. Let the love in your heart and your neshama be your guide, and your sunshine will continue to spread and be the good that can give so much to others and make such a positive difference in the world. I'm honored to be your mom. I had the privilege of visiting the 9/11 museum with you and saw how mature and impacted you were by that experience. And I'll always be proud of you and love you no matter what. Mazel tov.
Amen. Hug, hug, kiss, kiss. Our service continues. Page 40 will rise for Aleinu L'Shabeach. But first, somebody has to open the ark. Hannah, will you open the ark? And Mom and Dad, will you come back up? You escaped me too quickly. That's all right. It's all right. Yep, go ahead. I like the lead up. All right, friends, page 40. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedolah liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goi haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo som chalkenu kahem, v'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו 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 echad. We'll close the ark. The congregation can be seated, and once again, Mom and Dad, just come on around with Hannah in the middle as we begin to conclude our service, as always, thinking about those who have died in recent days and in seasons past, and all the more so on this day, the 20th anniversary of September 11th. We recall the lives of those innocent ones who did not make it from the buildings, who did not make it from the planes. We mourn them. We mourn those who ran into the buildings to try and rescue them. We mourn them. And we also mourn for all of the people who are still affected up until this day, who have lost loved ones as a result of September 11th. The Rosenberg family is especially thinking of, on this Shabbat, Dr. Robert Rosenberg, Harriet and Seymour Rosenberg, Joy Newman, Jack and Eleanor Johnson, Alma Snook, and Joella Crenshaw. If you are in the first 30 days mourning the loss of a loved one, I invite you to please rise. If you are in the first year mourning the loss of a loved one, I'll invite you to please rise. If on this Shabbat you are commemorating a yahrzeit, a death anniversary of a loved one, I invite you to please rise. And if it is your custom to rise for Mourner's Kaddish, as it is here at Temple Emanu-El, we will invite you to do so, especially in honor of those who did not make it from 9/11. Please rise. Yitzkadal v'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach yurtei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayachon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit'adar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shemeid kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Osei shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'asei shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'asei shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'asei shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. We'll go into a quick Vashamru, everybody, as we get ready to do Kiddush. So if you will, please slide to your right so that you may lift up our glass in just a moment. You can do it now, though. You can do it now. You know, this is our intro to that blessing. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Good Shabbos. La'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. La'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Nice and high. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Shabbat shalom. Take a drink. Mom and Dad, you too. or from the little cups, whatever you want. And then Hannah, if you will uncover our challah so that we may say motzi, voila, challah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Shabbat shalom. Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, yehelanu, 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 uvechol Yisrael, yehelanu, yehelanu, uvechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael. Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, and Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.